Hey everyone, it's Mrs. Mack reporting again from the home office. I had no intention of being out for so many days and I'm very frustrated by it, but here I am. I don't want you guys to get behind, so I've been recording these video lessons to keep you up with what we would be doing in class. So today you're going to be solving two-step equations using inverse operations. So yesterday we did the cover-up method, and the cover-up method is really valuable because it gives you an intuition about solving two-step equations that will really help you now that we're going to switch over to inverse operations. What you should know, I'm going to be really upfront about it, is that you cannot get proficient in this unit without showing your work and using inverse operations. I know I have my few who just don't want to ever write anything down and never want to show any work. This unit is different. These skills are extremely important, and you need to make sure that you are showing all of your steps and using inverse operations, okay? So, and I want to show you where we're headed so you know the why behind my rule on this, okay? So this is a multi-step equation. You're going to learn how to solve this in the next unit, and you can't keep all of this in your head. You have to write things down. You have to use inverse operations. Otherwise, you're going to be in a world of trouble, okay? So this is where we're headed. Don't stress about this yet, but you will be able to solve this pretty soon. So let's take a look at our lesson for today. You should have watched, hopefully you had time to, you should have watched a couple of videos in Khan Academy that talk about the balanced equation. I hope you had a chance to watch them because it really gives you an understanding of why when we do an operation to one side, we have to do it to the other as well. But I'm gonna just do a quick overview of what they went over in that Khan Academy video. Okay, so the balanced equation. Okay, so we can think about equations like a scale. Okay, you have like a balance actually, sorry, not a scale. And maybe you have some items stacked up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have some items stacked over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, right now it's perfectly balanced. You have 5 items here and you have 5 items here, they're the same weight. Now, if I were to add something to the left side, let's say I add a little square here, my balance would tip to the left, and I want it to stay balanced. So if I add a square to this side, I also have to add a square of the same weight to this side. And vice versa. If I take a circle away from this side over here, I can't leave it because now my balance will be unbalanced. So I also have to take it away from this side as well. Okay. And that's kind of the gist here for equations as well. So let's say that I had 5 circles. We'll call the circles just regular numbers on each side. Then I added a square. We'll call the square x. So now I added an x here, and I added an x here. And then I took away a circle. So I subtracted a circle from each side. That's not important, but you can see that as we've made some changes here, it has remained balanced, okay? So let's look at an equation and talk about what that means for equations. All right, so let's take a look at a very simple equation. This one doesn't even have any negatives in it. Just to start warming up here, okay? Now, the way that I like to do this so that I make sure that I keep it balanced is I actually put in a balance line down the center here. And then what I do is I remember that if I do an operation to this side or that side of the balance line, I have to do it to the other as well. So I'm going to go ahead and use the cover-up method to introduce inverse operations, okay? In the last lesson, I covered up the part that had the variable in it. And then I looked at, well, what would I add? What would 3 add to get 13? Well, instead of doing that, I'm going to look at what operation is happening here. You have 3, or you're adding 3. Well, if I want to undo that, I would use inverse operations. And the inverse operation for adding is subtracting. So I'll subtract 3 here and 3 here. Now this 3 minus 3 is 0. So what we've done is we've basically just canceled that part out. And what I'm left with here, and I can bring this down, is 2x, and then I can subtract here, is equal to 10. Now you're left with just one operation. It's multiplication. Now, the way that inverses work, inverse operations, is addition and subtraction are inverses of each other, and multiplication and division are inverses of each other. So if we're multiplying by 2, the inverse operation is going to be to divide by 2. So I'm going to divide by 2 here, and I'm going to divide by 2 here. Now 2 divided by 2 is 1, so that cancels out, and I'm just left with an x over here. So I'm going to bring it down. Then 10 divided by 2 is 5. Now, like I said yesterday, you have to check every answer. That is also a requirement for this unit, is to check your answers. Okay, so I know what I do, and I'll actually show you how I would set up the homework here in just a minute. But I would usually just fold the paper in half. I would solve on this side, check on this side. But before we do that, I want to talk about what we did. The first thing that we did here was we subtracted 3 from both sides. Okay, so that was what was happening at this step. And then here we divided 2 on both sides. Just so that when you're looking back at your notes, you can remember what we did there. Now let's check it. I'm going to take the original equation, and we're saying that the value of x for this equation is 5. So I'm going to put it into the original equation, do my work, and see what happens. So this is 10 plus 3. All right, so we know that this is the correct solution right there. X is equal to 5. All right, let's take a look at another example. Let's get some integers in this one. And then I'm going to talk about the steps that we took for solving. Well, actually, at the end, we'll summarize with the steps that we use for solving these. So let's do let's take a look at this one. Again, I'm going to put my balance line. And then I'm going to go back to that cover-up method, just because it does really help to remember what operation to do first. So what's coupled with the -3, with the m is the -3. So when I cover that up, I'll say, okay, here I'm subtracting 4. So I'm going to do the inverse operation, which would be to add 4. So I'm going to add 4 here, and I'm going to add 4 here. Now, -4 plus 4, that cancels out, so I'm going to exit out. And what I'm left with is -3m, so I'm going to bring that down. Now, -10 plus 4 is -6. and I'm bringing down my negative 3m. All right. Now when I look at this problem, I can see that I have one operation left. I'm multiplying my variable times negative 3. Well, the inverse operation for multiplying by negative 3 is dividing by negative 3. One common mistake here is people will forget to do the negative as well. They'll just divide by 3. But you're missing an important piece there because that is negative 3. Now, negative 3 divided by negative 3 is just 1. So that kind of cancels itself out and we're just left with m. And then when I come over here, negative 6 divided by negative 3 is a positive 2. And then we're left with m. So in this case, we the inverse operation was to add 4 to both sides, and then we divided by negative 3. Okay. Now we're going to check our answer. So I'm going to take my original equation. I'm going to put in 2 for m. Just going to simplify it to make sure that we're good. Yes, we are good. M is equal to 2. M is equal to 2. All right, I'm going to have you practice some of these, and then we're going to take a look at a slightly different format of this. Darn, I made a mistake here. I don't have a whiteout here at home. Goodness. Okay, go ahead and pause it. Give those ones a try, and then when you're done, turn it on again and see how you did. All right, let's check it out. I'm going to do the opposite, or the inverse, so I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides. Negative 4p is equal to 80. Divide both sides by negative 4. So that cancels out. And I'm getting that p is equal to negative 20. I'm going to check my answer. This is 80 plus 24 is equal to 104. And 104 is equal to 104. We're good. That's the solution. Let's take a look at the next one. If I cover this up, negative 3, the inverse operation would be to add 3. I know you haven't seen it where the number's ahead, but if you just cover it up, you think, what can I add or subtract here to make that 0? In this case, it would be to add 3. So this would be negative 10 to x. Then I will, these cancel out, and I'm left with the 2x. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And I get x is equal to negative 5. I forgot to circle my variable over there. You don't have to do the circling. I feel like it helps you keep track, though, of what's left after you've done some inverse operations. I'm going to check my answer. Yeah, we're good. So we can say that that is the correct solution. Okay, let's turn our papers over. Let's take a look at another format real quick. And then we'll write the steps down for solving these. Okay, you have m divided by 4 minus 6 is equal to 22. Okay, so in this case, we'll start just like we did before. Really the only difference here is this is division instead of multiplication. I'm going to use the cover-up method to cover up what's coupled with my variable and start. The opposite of subtracting 6 is adding 6. Well, I guess the inverse operation for that. Now this cancels out because negative 6 plus 6 is 0. And this is left. So we'll have m divided by 4 is equal to 28. Okay, so what we did here is and what we'll do here now is the opposite of division is multiplication, or the inverse operation. So now what we're going to do is, instead of, we were in the last step dividing, we're going to multiply now. Or sorry, not in the last step, but in the last couple problems. Okay, so the opposite of division is multiplication. And see what happens. 4 divided by 4 is just 1. And you're left with m. The whole point of these inverse operations is to get our variable all by itself so that we can see what the value of it is. And I'm going to do some, I believe that's 112. Now we're going to go back. We're going to plug it back in and make sure we're good. So this is 112 divided by 4 minus 6 is equal to 22. When we divide here, this is 28 minus 6 is equal to 22. 22 is equal to 22, so we're good. That is the correct solution. Okay. Let's take a look at another example. And then I'll have you practice one, and then I will write the steps down, and we'll call it good. So let's do negative 4 is equal to negative 2 plus b over 3. Kind of looks like a 6, but it is a b. Okay. I love starting with the cover-up method because now we have a way to help us find the inverse operation. So the variable's over here. I'm going to cover up what's going on with it. And I'm going to look here. This is a negative 2. And to make a negative 2 0, I just have to add 2. Okay, so the inverse operation here would be to add 2. And if I do it to this side, I also have to do it to this side. These cancel out, and we're left with b divided by 3 over here. So this is negative 2 is equal to b divided by 3. Now at this point, there's only one operation left happening to your variable. You're dividing by 3. In the inverse operation for dividing by 3 is multiplying by 3. So I'm going to do that here, and I'm going to do that here. Well, 3 divided by 3 is just 1, so that cancels out, and you're left with b. And then 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. I don't want to call that correct yet until I've checked my answer. And we're good. That is the correct answer. Okay. I'm just going to have you practice one, and then we'll be on our way here pretty soon. guys give it a try. Pause your video for a second. All right, let's see how you did. I'm gonna put my balance line in. I'm gonna cover this up. The opposite of -2 is +2, and that's how we're gonna make that be 0, how we're gonna basically get rid of it. So I'm gonna add 2 here, and I'm gonna add 2 here. Well, -2 + 2 is just 0, that's a goner. And then -14 + 2 is gonna be -12. And you're left with this whole thing over here, v divided by -4. Now at this stage, we would do the opposite, or the inverse operation here, and the inverse of dividing by -4 is multiplying by -4. And we have v left. -4 times -12 is a +48. Let's go ahead and check our work. So that will be -12. And then, yeah, -14 is equal to -14. And we know that's the solution. Okay, let's write the steps down, and we'll be good. I hope I haven't put you to sleep this morning. It's really early in the morning here. I woke up really early so that I could get everything ready for you guys. So, you know, I have only drinking a little bit of my coffee. Okay, first step is always to draw the balance line. It really does help to keep your work organized. Okay, so draw in that balance line. Step 2, when the equations are in the form that we looked at today, you will always add or subtract first. Okay, we will be looking at a form tomorrow that is not like this, and I will teach you the steps for that as well. But for tonight, you'll always add or subtract, and then you will always multiply or divide. Then you always finish by checking your answers. Every time, every time. Even as an adult, I check my answers. It's just good math form to make sure that you're actually correct. Okay, so there's the steps. When you're doing your homework tonight, well, and by the way, I am going to be looking at your homework every day for this unit. So just wanted to give you a warning that tomorrow when I come into class, I will either be collecting them or walking around and checking off who's done their work and who hasn't, okay? So if you do the answer checker, which I would recommend that you do, that can get you a sometimes. If you show your work on paper, that would be consistently, okay? All right, so what I do is, for the homework, is I fold it in half. And then when I open it up, okay, this is gonna be what, homework number 2. I do all of my work in this row. So I put my work here, and then I check my answers here. That way, it's all organized. So let's say you do number 1, you do all of your work, you solve it, and you come over here for number 1, and you plug it in and you check it, okay? And then you do number 2, same thing. Do your work, check it. All right, I'm really, really hoping, and I feel like I can kind of be confident that I will be there tomorrow. So hopefully I will see you then. Email me if you have any questions. Have a great day, you guys.